expand on what we have seen in the President's newsletter. Ntsikelelo Breakfast is standing by to take a look at whether indeed progress has been made in the fight against state capture. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Taking a look at the President's newsletter titled Working to Prevent State Capture Now and into the Future. It says, and I read, "Dear fellow South Africans, corruption is one of the greatest challenges our country confronts as we strive to improve the lives of all of our people. State capture is one of the worst forms of corruption our country has experienced in recent times. State capture was the orchestrated theft of billions of rand through the capture of state institution. And this week is exactly 2 years since the State Capture Commission held its final public hearings of the course of its work. The Commission heard evidence from over 300 witnesses and collected more than 1.7 million pages of documentary evidence. 1.7 million pages of documentary evidence, and almost R1 billion later. Was it all worth it? Ntsikelelo Breakfast, you can hear us?
I do. Yes, Tutu. Thank you very much for having me.
Sure.
I think, Tutu, there is a implementation of the findings of the Zondo Commission is because the first thing that comes to the mind of the ANC is itself, not the country. Otherwise, the ANC would have implemented those findings long time ago. I think the ANC has been hamstrung by some of its own internal political dynamics. Uncle Mantashe is on record having said that the ANC should not be hasty. They should not rush into implementing those findings. No wonder the ANC has put those findings on hold because of a number of factors. One, some of those findings, because the assumption was that in the final analysis, those findings in the bigger scheme of things, they were going to affect the other faction, which is the faction of radical economic transformation. But it turned out that it affected both factions, even the faction of President Ramaphosa. For instance, it included, names like Weremantash, Zizi Kodwa, and so on. So if you are going to implement those findings as of now, you might escalate the tensions within the ANC, and that might not improve the electoral performance of the ANC, given the fact that elections are just around the corner. I'm not saying that is right. I'm just, painting a picture in terms of why there has been this low pace of the implementation of those findings. But it's quite clear, based on my reading of the situation, that the ANC is concerned about itself as opposed to the country, meaning that they are not serious in terms of fighting against the institutionalization of corruption. But also, the past is still with us, because we have seen another form of state capture, even post the Zuma era. For instance, I can argue and say the kind of corruption that we have seen under the circumstances of COVID-19, rampant corruption, that is another form of state capture, because we've seen people using both social capital and political capital in pursuit of personal accumulation in order to amass wealth. So I don't think that government has done away with crony capitalism or patronage.
Well, Prof, the President would disagree with you, because in his newsletter he says significant progress has also been made in recovering the proceeds of crime. Freezing orders to the value of 13 billion rand have been granted to the NPA. A total of 5.4 billion rand has been traced and returned to the state. The South African Revenue Service has collected unpaid taxes as a result of evidence before the State Capture Commission. When you take a look at the NPA, for instance, and the recent Nulane New Lane Investments case, what does that tell you about capacity?
There have been many people who have walked out of the NPA complaining about the NPA failing to get the job done. I'm not going to name names. I mean, you know, senior officials within that particular, department who left because they are unhappy about the way things are. And I think a lot could have been done by now in terms of showcasing to the country that government takes a stand against the corruption. I think, for instance, the country has not pitched its presentation in a way that is convincing to, bring the Guptas down to the country. They have not succeeded, in doing that. So I don't think that government can tap itself on the back and be proud of the work that it has done. I think it has fallen short in terms of showing to the country that it is on a mission to fight against corruption.
Prof, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast is with Nelson Mandela University.